News Talk 1070 KHMO presents On the Mark with Mark Hespin. News Talk 1070 KHMO presents On the Mark with Mark Hespin. On the Mark is powered by Kunis Country Honda Hyundai, your number one Honda and Hyundai dealer in the tri-state area at 221 North 36th Street, Quincy. Faith, family, and giving back. That's Kunis Country. And now, here's Mark Hespin.
Good morning, Tri-States, and wherever you may be listening on the News Talk 1070 KHMO app. This is On the Mark. I am Mark Hespin, brought to you by the great people over at Kunis Honda Hyundai, your number one Honda and Hyundai dealer in the tri-state area, 221 North 36th Street in Quincy. They know it's March, and they're having some madness over at Kunis Honda Hyundai. Check them out this weekend. Huge savings on select new and vehicles. And, of course, you can always peruse their fantastic over 3,000 used vehicles as well through the shopkunis.com network. Stop by the dealership. Just tell them Mark sent you, 221 North 36th Street in Quincy. Great weekend to go get yourself a new ride. Welcome on into episode 227 of On the Mark on this Saturday, March 16th of St. Patrick's Day weekend. Top of the morning to you if you're listening on the KHMO app over in Ireland. You're probably not. I can almost guarantee you're not. But if you are, that's awesome. As always, you can follow me on all social media at Mark Hespin, MarkHespen. You can hit me up, follow the YouTube channel at Mark Hespin. That's X, Twitter, Instagram, all those things. If you're listening on the terrestrial radio, follow along the show on the Mark KHMO on Facebook. Lots to get to this week. Last week on the show, we tried to predict where some of these big-name quarterbacks were going to end up. This week on the show, we have our answer. I mean, I don't remember a time in free agency where so much of the NFL landscape changed in 1 week. There really was a litany of moves, running backs, quarterbacks, wide receivers on the move, some star pass rushers as well. We'll dive into some of the quarterback moves and then other moves I really liked. There are some moves I really liked. You got to remember in free agency, not everything's going to be a win. A lot of times the teams that spend the most in free agency have the biggest splashy moves. It always seems to, flutter and fall apart. But there were some moves I really liked. We will talk Chicago Bears on the show today. Kind of an update from me of how I feel about the Justin Fields current situation, what the Bears are or aren't doing as far as trading their quarterback. Are they going all in on Caleb Williams? We'll get into all of that on the show today. We'll talk March Madness. The best teams are playing great basketball right now. It's as simple. If you're not paying attention to the conference tournaments, that's the simple headline. We'll dive into it a little bit more. And then a couple quick hitter stories to wrap up the show. Let's waste no more time. Let's jump into it. Hespin headline number one. The NFL looks a lot different today than it did a week ago.
Hespin's headlines on the Mark.
So let's start with the quarterback moves. There's a couple big quarterback moves in the NFL over free agency that I want to address head on. And then we'll go into other moves that I think really give us a picture, an idea, a clue of what could happen. And then some of the moves that I just genuinely liked. I like seeing it. Do I think it maybe is a home run? No, but I like it. It's interesting. It's different. It's unique. So let's jump into it. Let's start with Russell Wilson. He now stands alone in Pittsburgh. Shortly after my show last week, it was announced on Sunday last week that Russ would be signing a 1-year prove-it deal with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And this kind of idea was that Kenny Pickett would be in camp and they would just go head-to-head. Well, then the news breaks yesterday that the Steelers have decided to trade Kenny Pickett to the Eagles. Apparently, from what we're hearing, Kenny Pickett, the former first-round pick, he's going into year 3 in the NFL. He basically said, I don't want to compete. Just if I'm not going to be the starter of the Pittsburgh Steelers, let's find me a new home and let me move forward with my career in another way, which I can respect. If you're Kenny Pickett, there is a lot of pressure that comes with the idea of you're the first round quarterback and now it didn't work out. Rarely do those guys once they get that kind of second chance, there was competition brought in for Mitch to compete and all this stuff. Nick Foles, once it gets to that point, there's no earning the job back to where you're going to be the guy. I think Kenny Pickett saw the writing on the wall where it didn't work out. He didn't play well enough. The systems didn't support him well enough. So let me just go get a fresh start. So I'm excited for Kenny Pickett in Philadelphia. I don't even think he really has to move. You know what I mean? It's not that bad of a drive from Pittsburgh to Philly. He probably had a condo, an apartment in Philadelphia anyways, being a Philly kid growing up. But I will say it's a really nice landing spot for Kenny Pickett, being Jalen Hurts' backup. Jalen Hurts plays a physical brand of football, could certainly miss a game or two depending on the way he plays. And that's a loaded Eagles roster, which we'll talk more about coming on up. But now Russ stands alone in Pittsburgh. So it's going to be Russell Wilson as the starter in Pittsburgh. What it seems to me as of right now, the only way that could change is if Pittsburgh goes out and gets a Justin Fields. I think then they could absolutely have a quarterback competition between Russ and Justin. Even if Pittsburgh drafted a quarterback, say Pittsburgh drafts a quarterback in the second, third round, I don't think it would necessarily be a competition. I think it would be smart for them to do. I don't know if it would be smart to use a first rounder, especially where they're drafting, but I think it would be smart for them to do and then have them sit behind Russ for a year. And if Russ earns another year or, continues to play well, you just have that guy keep sitting. It's not like you invested a first round pick with him, anything like that. So Russ is the guy. It's going to be a fascinating year. I mean, he's, to me right now, him and Deshaun Watson, kind of a coin flip. They're not as good as Joe Burrow. They're not as good as Lamar Jackson. They're both kind of the same. I look at them very similarly. Like at their highest of highs, they were elite quarterbacks, but we haven't seen them play that way in 2 years. I mean, Russ has been more consistent, at least has played, versus Deshaun has not. But those two guys, battling, they're going to be battling for third place in that division. To me, it feels like this morning, my gut with Russ in Pittsburgh. And Russ has taken on a huge amount of responsibility because if you're the guy, you're the quarterback who can't keep Mike Tomlin's streak of going 500 or better alive, you just sign your own death warrant. You know what I mean? If you're Russell Wilson, the eyes have got to be on 9 wins. You've got to find a way to get to 9 wins. And that is tough to do in the AFC and in probably the toughest division in the AFC top to bottom. Kirk Cousins lands in Atlanta. We talked about this last week. We kind of saw the writing on the wall. It's a great fit for Kirk. He's getting a ton of money. My thing with Kirk is I'd like to know what the Vikings offered him. It seems as though the Atlanta deal was probably that extra year, the 4-year deal, the chance to make a lot more money if things go well for him in Atlanta to get close to that full $180 million. We know he's getting basically $100 million guaranteed. And if you look at the deal in just that way, it's really a 2-year deal with a 3rd-year option at $10 million, to guarantee on the books. The cap number could be bigger depending on incentives and all those other things, depending on how Kirk plays to get that, full 180. But it makes sense. It makes a ton of sense for him to take this deal depending on what else he was offered. I mean, I would imagine no one else was close financially to this type of deal. Because if they were close, if Minnesota was anywhere close, it made it feel like, why would you move your family? Just stay in Minnesota and ride out your career there. So my guess is Minnesota was more at a 2-year deal, something around $70, $80 million fully guaranteed. And Kirk said, well, I want the security of the 4. I want the security of the $100 million. And it totally makes sense. It's worth it to make that move, especially Atlanta being a good destination. Easiest division in football, ton of weapons on offense, and you go there with a new head coach where you basically have like a 2-year window to set the culture and try to win. No real pressure on if this year doesn't go perfectly. If Atlanta doesn't win 12 games this year, I don't think anyone's going to be completely blaming Kirk and throwing him under the bus. I will say the reverse side of that move, obviously it leaves Desmond Ridder to Arizona to go start his career as a backup to Kyler Murray. I think that's fine. Good for him. And hopefully he has a nice long career as a backup in the NFL, as a spot starter. I think I could definitely see Desmond Ridder as that kind of guy. it also leaves the opening in Minnesota. And Minnesota's really interesting. They bring in Sam Darnold on a 1-year, $10 million deal to just have someone, right? You know you can at least start the season with Darnold. But the really interesting and fascinating move is what Minnesota did 2 days ago. They went or yesterday early morning, they went and acquired another first-round pick. So now the Minnesota Vikings have 2 picks in the first round, their own and the Texans pick in the early 20s. So what does this do? Well, that pick gives Minnesota the ability to look at the teams ahead of them in the draft and say, hey, we're willing to give you 2 first-rounders this year and more to get into that spot we need to draft a quarterback. So would that be rich enough for New England to move off a quarterback? Would that be rich enough for Arizona to move off of Marvin Harrison Jr.? Would that be rich enough for the Chargers, who clearly are in some cap trouble? They had to restructure Khalil Mack, restructure Bosa, let go of their wide receiver core. Would that be rich enough for the Chargers to say, hey, we'll take picks number 11 and picks number 23 and move out of the top 5 and just add as much more talent as we can to this roster? You know, would it rich enough for New York as well to move up? So if the Vikings start to see a quarterback that they really love falling, they can get ahead of teams, you know, later in the draft. They can get ahead of a Jets team. They can move up, maybe even convince a Chicago, a Washington, or a New England to give up one of those desired top 3 spots for what we project to be the top 3 guys: Drake May, Caleb Williams, and Jayden Daniels. So I love that move overall for the Vikings. And bringing Darnold in, listen, I feel bad for the Vikings fans and for Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison if you know, hey, this is all you're running with this year. I would be shocked if the Vikings don't leave the first round with a quarterback. And so that's where they're at this morning. Meanwhile, in Tampa, they got their guy, Baker Mayfield, locked up. Great deal for Baker. Great deal for Tampa. You basically tie him to Mike Evans for the next 2 years. That third year is kind of a flexible option for Baker and the Bucs. And you know what? Hey, we're in a win now division. We won it last year. No reason why we can't run this thing back. Love that move for them. And then 2 other quarterback moves I want to touch on here really quickly before we move to some of the other moves in free agency. That, again, I think they're interesting because it gives you that nibble, that little crumb of information as to what these teams are thinking. The Vikings move, being trading for another first-round pick, obviously gives you the clue they're going to try to move up so they can go get the guy they want if that guy starts falling. Okay? That's clue number 1. Clues number 2 and 3 are what the Commanders and the Patriots did. The Commanders go out and sign Marcus Mariota, mobile, tall, likes to move. Who does that remind you of? Jayden Daniels. So are the Commanders giving you a little wink, wink? Hey, we want Marcus Mariota in camp so Jayden Daniels can learn from Marcus Mariota, a guy who was a top 2 pick, a guy who was electric, a Heisman Trophy winner, and a guy who plays a similar brand of football. Mobile, tall, not the biggest arm in the world, but accurate, especially at the college level. Marcus Mariota never really translated to the NFL level with his accuracy. And so that really fits. Drake May and Marcus Mariota are a weird fit. Marcus Mariota and Jayden Daniels, a really nice fit for, someone to bring in and learn from. Sam Howell gets shipped off to Seattle. Good for Sam Howell. Looks like he's going to have a chance to compete for the starting job against Geno Smith. They gave up pretty much nothing to get him. And so I like that for Seattle. And for Sam Howell, hey, you got a chance. You got a chance. And if Geno wins the job and gets injured, you're going to go out and start some games and have a chance to keep proving that you can play in this league. And if you are the Patriots, signing Jacoby Brissett. First off, he knows New England. He's been there before. But again, who does he remind you of? Tall, statuesque, big arm, can make all the throws. Drake May. So those moves show you 2 things. Washington and New England now have guys in their building that they feel comfortable starting the season if they have to start the season with those guys, same as Minnesota. But Washington, New England, by signing those backups specifically, I think are also giving you a little wink, wink. These are the guys that we are thinking of to draft. We're leaning towards Jaden Daniels if you're Washington. You're leaning towards Drake May if you're New England. And I think both moves make sense. Jaden Daniels, to me, the upside with him is starting to feel like you're going to regret it if you don't take him at number 2. You'd prefer if he could sit as long as possible. And Marcus Mariota is certainly a guy he could sit behind in that tough division for the majority of his rookie year and really start to absorb. All right, you're listening on the Mark News Talk 1070 KHMO, the KHMO app. Brought to you by Kunis Honda Hyundai. I know it's a long first segment, but look how much happened in the NFL. So those are the quarterback moves. I want to touch on a couple. These will move quicker. Things I just liked. Do I like them because I think they're going to be home runs? Some of them. Do I like them because I think some of these teams got a great deal? Yes. And do I like some of them just because they're interesting and it's kind of cool? Do I think it's going to be a great, home run? A lot of these, no. But I just like it. It's going to be interesting for us to talk about, interesting for fantasy football, interesting for some good teams. So let's jump into it. Derrick Henry to the Ravens. I think this is one of those, it's fun for us as fans. It's fantasy football. And I think it actually is going to work out really, really well. I said it last week. It's the move that makes the most sense. Now you just got to hope the Ravens actually give him the ball. Because they didn't give the running backs the ball against the Chiefs, and that's what killed them. Saquon Barkley to the Eagles. They overpaid. They just did. I would not have given Saquon Barkley that much money, no matter what team I was. They overpaid. He's not going to live up to that contract. He's been injured. He is in the last leg of his prime. You're maybe going to get a year and a half of prime with Saquon, and you got him for 4 years. So I don't love that. But overall, this Eagles team, you lost, 2 gigantic retirements with Kelce and Fletcher Cox. You're able to re-sign some of your guys, bring some new guys in, some other moves I really like they made on the defensive side of the ball especially. And you add Saquon Barkley to a really potent offense with Smith, obviously with A.J. Brown, with your quarterback, obviously who you believe in, Jalen Hurts, you paid big money to last year. So they're all in. I mean, the Eagles are all in. And I do worry a little bit for the Eagles that this is very reminiscent of that kind of dream team Eagles. Remember with Michael Vick and Vince Young, and they signed all these guys, and it kind of imploded. A lot of pressure on Nick Sirianni this year. He was on the hot seat last year at the end of the year. He's on the hot seat to start the year, and you load up your team with talent, and you pay Saquon Barkley a ton of money. Things could implode in Philadelphia if they don't win games. So we'll keep our eye on that. But I like the move. It's interesting. It's fun. Tyron Smith yesterday, late last night, signed with the Jets. Love that move. The Jets need offensive line help. Tyron Smith, kind of leaving Dallas. He's a first ballot Hall of Fame guy. And so, yes, he's not what he was, but, and he certainly, health has been an issue, but he's an upgrade over what the Jets have. They just need to bring in as much offensive line help as possible. So I like that move. Danielle Hunter and Joe Mixon to the Texans. Love these moves to the Texans. The Texans, listen, they won a playoff game last year. And a rookie head coach, rookie quarterback, and then they improved their roster. They improved their defense with the best pass rusher available in Danielle Hunter. They got him to a 2-year deal. Fits their kind of window of like, hey, we're turning this thing around. You're on the opposite end of your elite, pass rusher heading into year 2. And then you give your young quarterback a reliable 3-down back in Joe Mixon, and you basically pay him nothing comparatively in the running back market. Love those moves for the Texans. The Giants getting Brian Burns, they got him for a 2nd and a 5th, and then they paid him. He matches up well with Thibodeau. That Giants defensive line now is absolutely nasty. And the Giants, I don't think they're going to be that good this year because Daniel Jones is their signal caller, but their defensive line, they can rely on their defensive line to be really, really good. So they have something going for them. And then my final one I want to touch on, Josh Jacobs to Green Bay. I said it before free agency started. There are 2 running backs I'd be willing to give 3-year deals to. Josh Jacobs and DeAndre Swift. Now, DeAndre Swift got a 3-year deal. Josh Jacobs got a 4-year deal. I think they overpaid a little bit for Josh Jacobs. I wouldn't have given 4 years, but he is the premier back who was in his prime. And listen, Green Bay looked at Aaron Jones. He couldn't stay healthy, but they loved their 2-back system. They re-signed A.J. Dillon. That was smart. And they basically just say, hey, we plug and play again. We have all these young receivers. We have young tight ends we love. We have a young quarterback we love. And now we have veteran prime running backs with A.J. Dillon and Josh Jacobs who both can handle the load. And even if one gets tweaked, we can trust the other. And so I think it's a total fit for Green Bay. It makes me sick to my stomach as a Bears fan because Green Bay is loaded on up offensively. And this move, keeps that offense extremely, extremely potent and poisonous. There's a lot. I mean, there's a lot we're not talking about. I mean, there's so many other moves. We can't talk about them all. Those are the ones that I thought were really interesting. There was one that I thought was really bad. I'll give you that one now. I am shocked that Calvin Ridley got signed for as much money as Calvin Ridley did. What are the Titans doing? I mean, that is a ton of money to give Calvin Ridley when you are in a draft that has a ton of wide receiver talent, and at 7, you could absolutely get one of the 3 top wide receivers probably in this draft. Neighbors, Odunze, or Marvin Harrison Jr. Maybe that signals that Tennessee really, really knows. And listen, Tennessee needs offensive line help. And so maybe they're saying to themselves, listen, we have got to take the best offensive lineman available at 7. We can't waste that on a wide receiver. But, man, that's so much money to give Ridley. And, listen, now Ridley and Hopkins, with Will Levis, it's not like he doesn't have options. They're going to bolster the offensive line even more. They bring in what's his name from the running back from Dallas? Now I'm blanking on his name. But, so they're trying, but it's just so much money to give a wide receiver who's turning 30 when there's so much young wide receiver talent out there right now. When we come back, we'll talk Chicago Bears. I'll lay it all out there, an update of how I'm feeling, where we're at in the process, what I believe in my heart of hearts the Chicago Bears are doing, and kind of try to give you some insight as to what could happen, what should happen. You can already tell the Bears are putting me in a pretzel. I'm in a pretzel. We'll get into that next. We're live and local in America's News Talk 1070 KHMO and the KHMO app. It's On the Mark, brought to you by Kunis Honda Hyundai.
1070 KHMO.
Welcome on back to On the Mark here on News Talk 1070 KHMO and the KHMO app. We are brought to you by Kunis Honda Hyundai, your number 1 Honda and Hyundai dealer in the tri-state area, 221 North 36th Street in Quincy. You got to ask them about that lifetime powertrain, no fear warranty on new and used vehicles. Stop by the dealership this weekend. If you're saying to yourself, Mark, I hear you talk about Kunis Honda Hyundai. I want that lifetime no powertrain warranty, the no fear warranty, but I'm really in the market for a brand new Dodge Ram. I'm telling you right now, go over to Kunis Honda Hyundai and say, hey, I want a brand new Ram. I want a brand new Jeep. I want a brand new Toyota. Just trust me on this. Trust me. See what they can do for you. It's special, very special what Kunis Honda Hyundai's got going on there. All right, Hespin headline number 2. Let's dive into it. Bear down, Chicago Bears.
Hespin's headlines on the Mark.
So the Bears have been the talk of a lot of the mainstream shows over the last week and a half. A lot of people thought leading up into free agency start, you'd see Justin Fields get moved kind of right away. It's obvious they're going with Caleb Williams. They are not moving off him. And they're sticking with Caleb Williams, and they're going to find someone. Fields is going to end up in Atlanta. He's going to end up in Pittsburgh. He's going to end up in Seattle. And all of a sudden, here we are, March 16th, a week into free agency. The draft a month and a week away. And Justin Fields is still a Chicago Bear. So let me just start by some of the things people are saying online on Twitter and on X and some other things that I'm combating a lot. Well, they got Keenan Allen. That means that they're bringing in Caleb Williams. Keenan Allen signing to me doesn't mean anything except for this team's trying to get better, trying to get really better. And they look at their division, they look up at Green Bay, they look up at Detroit, and they go, holy smokes. We got to compete with those two rosters. We need to improve our roster. That's what the Keenan Allen thing. The Keenan Allen signing also to me, is going to tell a lot. Are they going to excite him to an extension? Or is this a 1 year, hey, welcome to the NFL rookie. Let's help you get acquainted. And if you're healthy and you play well, then we'll extend you after the season. Or is this a, hey, Justin Fields, here's another weapon. You got to go win now. We want to make it to the playoffs. I think it works for both. I think the tea leaves of Keenan Allen works for both. The Jalen Johnson signing, improve your defense. Your defense needs to be able to compete. One of your great players, you keep him. I don't think that gives you any insight into Justin or Caleb. DeAndre Swift, you need a reliable RB1. You didn't have it on your roster. You kind of hope maybe Roschon Johnson developed into that guy. I think he still could, but basically you saw that he was a really good complementary piece, and you're not willing to re-sign Khalil Herbert to any sort of deal, and his deal is winding up. So now you have a great stable of backs. You also had a lot of running back injuries last year, and I think you need to bring someone in. I don't think this helps or hurts Justin or Caleb. I think it's, again, similar to Keenan Allen. You fill a position in need. You improve your team. It helps either quarterback you bring in. Kevin Byard, the safety, same thing as the Jalen Johnson. You improve your team. It was a need. You went out and got the best safety available on a very reasonable contract. So those are the key moves the Bears made, and you're not really deciphering anything from that. I will say, if you still believe that Justin Fields will be traded, there are some options for you. There are some real options for you. At this point in time, I now feel as though if Justin Fields is traded, it won't happen until the week of the draft or really close to the draft. At this point in time, it feels like Poles is trying to alert everyone that we don't know what we're doing here in Chicago. Everything is on the table. Keep bringing me all your options, whether it's trades for the number 1 overall pick, trades for number 9 overall, trades for Justin Fields. I want to hear it all, baby. That's what it feels like. And that will heat up over the next month as we lead towards the draft. But if you still believe there's no way they're going with Caleb Williams, you can't miss on Caleb Williams, and you got to get Justin out of the building. Pittsburgh, the Jets, the Dolphins, and the Ravens are all really great options still to get a 4th, 5th, 6th round pick for Justin Fields. And I'm hearing a lot of people getting frustrated by, like, you got to wait. You got to hold on to Justin until the start of the season, and then someone will go down, and then someone's going to give you a 2nd rounder for him. First off, A, we don't know that's true at all. We just don't. And second off, B, you cannot have Caleb Williams walk in day one and Justin Fields be there. I'm sorry, you can't do it. This is not Kenny Pickett, Russ Wilson. If you take a quarterback number 1 overall, there is no healthy competition. If you take a quarterback number 1 overall, the only way that quarterback is successful is if there is a veteran, Marcus Mariota, Jacoby Brissett, Gardner Minshew, who's there, Ryan Fitzpatrick, who knows their place, who says, hey, kid, I'm here to help. Whatever questions you got, can't wait to watch you shine and thrive. Justin is a ascending player in the who's in the heart of his career. He doesn't owe Caleb Williams anything, who should absolutely be competing for a starting job wherever Justin Fields is. Or probably, in my opinion, he should be a starter in the NFL. So you just don't do that. And people will say, well, Mark, Alex Smith and Patrick Mahomes. Why can't we do Alex Smith and Patrick Mahomes? Remember, Patrick Mahomes wasn't drafted number 1 overall. The critics were saying, oh, my God, the Chiefs traded up for Patrick Mahomes. Well, he's going to sit for a year and learn. Yeah, there was no pressure to start Patrick Mahomes. No pressure. If you draft Caleb Williams 1 overall, if you have the conviction to draft anyone 1 overall, Jayden Daniels, Drake May, J.J. McCarthy, if you love a guy you drafted number 1 overall, He will start this year, some point in time. So the Bears absolutely, in my opinion, have shown two things by not trading Justin Fields at this point. Number one, they're either keeping Justin Fields and they're going to trade number one overall, or Justin Fields will be dealt at some point in time. This now just going to be closer to the draft, and Caleb will be your day one starter. It's going to be your day one starter. Whoever quarterback you draft is going to be your day one starter. You're getting a really solid offensive line with great tackles, elite weapons now with a top, 5, 6, tight end in the league in Cole Kmet, with the number 2 or 3 wide receiver duo in the NFL, and Keenan Allen, DJ Moore. Like, two great tight ends, Gerald Everett, you add him, a great running back committee. Like, Caleb, he's got support. He can start day one. So if you still believe they're going to trade Justin, there are places for him to go. Pittsburgh, Jets, Dolphins, Ravens, all places that would offer him a couple picks. And I want to get back to the point. I know I'm going on a rant here. The point I'm trying to make is if you believe you need to get something for Justin, I just think that's silly. The last regime traded up to get Justin. You gave up a little bit to get him. You got 3 years out of him. You gave it your all. You don't have to get something out of everyone. You just don't. You can let him go. If you can't trade Justin Fields and for more than even for a 7th rounder, if you can't get something for him, a player or a 6th, 7th rounder, obviously you want to get as much as you can. If someone's willing to give you a 2nd, a 3rd, and you're convinced on Caleb Williams, then take it. Yeah, take as much as you can. But you don't have to get anything for him. I would rather the Bears cut Justin Fields than have Justin Fields and Caleb Williams in the locker room together. It's just the way it goes. Sometimes you just let someone go if you can't get something for them. So there's that, number one. And then number two, if you believe that they are going to keep Justin Fields, and this is, listen, if you've been on, they're keeping Justin Fields or trading number one since January when the season ended, then this is exactly how you expected this to go, right? Look, we're a week into free agency. Justin's still a Bear. So many teams could have the chance to get Justin Fields. You're hearing reports, some people saying, experts, Dan Graziano, Field Yates saying to my knowledge, the Bears haven't made him really available. That's why he hasn't been traded. So if you believe that he is going to stay a Bear and he's going to be the starting quarterback for the Bears and they're trading number one overall pick, or they're drafting Marvin Harrison Jr. with the number one overall pick, whatever they're doing, but they're not drafting a quarterback, this is the plan. This is it in action. We are seeing it. The side of the argument that's winning right now is they're keeping Justin Fields because this is all part of the plan. If your argument was, no, they're trading Justin Fields, well, you're starting to run out of time and you just missed a really big window. Washington, the Patriots, the Raiders, the Broncos, the Giants, all still very capable of moving up and giving a trade of picks and a haul to move up to number one. So then the Bears can make another pick, a player, if they're not going quarterback. So all of those teams are very in play. Washington, New England's the best one. And New England is still very in play to trade for Justin Fields as well. I could see very much New England close to the draft. They draft Marvin Harrison Jr. The Bears draft Caleb Williams number one overall. And then you see a draft day trade that Justin Fields is now a New England Patriot for a 4th rounder this year or a 5th rounder this year. And that's the direction New England goes. I could see it happening. This moment, 9:41 on March 16th, 2024. My gut tells me the Bears are trading the number one overall pick. That's my gut. My gut tells me they're rolling with Justin Fields. That's what my gut tells me. We'll see. We'll wait and see. I'm happy no matter what. I've watched the tape on Caleb. I've started to fall in love with Caleb. I think he's going to be a great pro. And they've surrounded him with so many weapons. How could he not be successful to start? This is the best start for a rookie quarterback in Chicago Bears history if they draft one. And it's one of the best weapon groups any quarterback ever had in Chicago history if Justin Fields comes back. So I'm happy either way. Ryan Poles has done a great job. My gut tells me right now, if I had to place money on it, the trade number 1 overall in Justin Fields is going to stay a Chicago Bear. That's what I'm telling you. I'm not saying if it's right or wrong. I'm not saying that's what I would or wouldn't do. I'm telling you that's what my gut tells me this morning. When we come back, let's talk a little March Madness, shall we? On the Mark, News Talk 1070 KHMO, the KHMO app, brought to you by Kunis Honda Hyundai.
Happy kids heal faster. That's why Starlight Children's Foundation is dedicated to improving the mental well-being of sick kids, regardless of their illness or injury. When a child is hospitalized, the happiness of childhood feels out of reach. But that's where Starlight comes in. We provide entertainment through our gaming stations, comfort with our specially designed hospital gowns, play with our toy deliveries, and distraction through our virtual reality headsets. Starlight programs are what happiness is made of. The things that make being a kid special. The simple power of a smile. Delivered to over 800 hospitals across the country can make a lifetime of difference for sick kids. Learn more at starlight.org.
Here is your weatherology forecast from the News Talk 1070 KHMO Weather Center. Mainly clear today with a high of 67. Winds out of the west, 10 to 20 miles per hour. Lows dip down to about 34 tonight. Mainly clear. Daytime highs approaching 46 tomorrow. Lots of sunshine. Right now, 48.
Welcome on back to On the Mark on News Talk 1070 KHMO and the KHMO app. We are brought to you by Kunis Honda Hyundai, your number 1 Honda and Hyundai dealer in the Tri-State area. 221 North 36th Street in Quincy. Listen, you got to ask about that No Fear lifetime powertrain warranty. It is what sets Kunis apart. Join the Kunis family, 221 North 36th Street in Quincy. Tell them Mark sent you. All right, if you are just starting to get into March Madness, I've been watching more and more college basketball now for about 2 weeks. It's always where I get into it, right? The last 2 weeks of the regular season, then conference tourney. You can start to really dive in, right? And if you want my kind of quick breakdown for what you need to know is the brackets will be released Sunday night. There are 4 elite teams, in my opinion, in college basketball right now. I think they are playing head and shoulders above everyone else, and they're still going in their own conference tourneys. I think it's very obvious that Houston, UConn, Purdue, and UNC are the 4 best teams in college basketball. Houston with Francis, Geyer, and Sharp. They have bigs. They have guards. They are the best defensive team in college basketball. UConn, defending champions. They have so much talent. Caravan, Spencer, Newton. They are, maybe the best head coach in the sport right now with Hurley. They are flying high, and they've went through the toughest maybe conference in college basketball in the Big East and are rifling through it. Purdue, Edey, Jones, Lager. I mean, the only thing that worries me about Purdue is how will they play when they're pushed and they're playing tight and they can't get the ball into Zach Edey. But so far through the Big Ten tournament, hasn't been a problem, and that's good. Purdue needs some success in this Big Ten tournament. If Purdue wins the Big Ten tournament, they're going into the March Madness tournament with a ton of confidence, and that's a good thing for Purdue. UNC, Bacot, Davis, Ladue. Listen, they won it 2 years ago. They had a really disappointing season last year. They've completely turned it around. Bacot is an all-timer at UNC right now, and they are absolutely a threat. The only thing that worries me about UNC is the ACC overall has been down this year. So are they battle-tested enough? They got a big game today against NC State, Purdue versus Wisconsin. I like Wisconsin plus 5.5 against Purdue. I think Wisconsin will keep it close. Now, there are a couple other teams to keep your eye on. A lot of people are high on Arizona, Duke, Baylor, and Tennessee. I think they all have major flaws. I think Duke, Arizona, Baylor, and Tennessee all very well could be Sweet 16 teams. They could be second weekend teams, but every single one of them also, it would not shock me at all if they were out in the first weekend. Tennessee, historically, I hate to say it, but their head coach, they just can't win in tournament play. There's just something about tournament play that they struggle with. Baylor, they're young. They're so young, and they struggle to score at times. Duke, they can't have free throws, and they don't play much defense. And Shire, historically in the tournaments, hasn't been good. Arizona, man, they're just choke artists. They can score, and then they just choke. They tournament play in Arizona, when the pressure's on, they panic. Kentucky is a team that lost in their conference tournament. I was really disappointed they lost against Texas A&M. But I will say this about Kentucky. I think Kentucky is a dark horse Final Four team purely because, and that dark horse, they'll be a top 5 seed, but purely because they can score. I mean, Kentucky can score the basketball. Dillingham, Reeves, Wagner, they can score. Big games today. Illinois, Nebraska, big game for the Illini to stay alive, win the Big Ten, could help them seal up a top 4 seed. Houston versus Iowa State. Iowa State is a very good team. They're a long shot team, I think, as well. Marquette. If Marquette can upset UConn, they could end up in the 2 line. That would be important for Marquette as well. So a lot of things to consider today in college basketball. When we come back, couple quick hitters, wrap up the show on the mark on News Talk 1070 KHMO and the KHMO app.
What is lost when a home is denied, when equality is cast aside, when it discriminates against you because you're LGBTQ or because of your race or the obstacles you face, deny you a lender because of your gender? Housing discrimination has no place in our nation.
Don't let housing discrimination stop you. If you believe you've been denied a home because of your race, color, religion, national origin, familial status, disability, or sex, including gender identity and sexual orientation, go to HUD.gov/fair housing. Everyone has a right to fair housing.
1070 KHMO.
Welcome on back to On the Mark on News Talk 1070 KHMO and the KHMO app, brought to you by Kunis Honda Hyundai, your number 1 Honda and Hyundai dealer in the tri-state area, 221 North 36th Street in Quincy. Ask them about that lifetime powertrain no fear warranty, and shop Kunis.com for over the 3,000 new and used vehicles to choose from. Okay, Aaron Donald retired. Aaron Donald is one of the 10 best players I've ever seen with my eyes play. I was thinking about this, and I might do this at some point in time during the offseason. I really started watching football like religiously when I was 10 in the year 2000. So I've been watching football religiously for 24 years. And so players from 2000 on, he is absolutely one of the 5, 6 best players I've ever seen in my lifetime with my eyes. And now, where does he rank all time against Reggie White and guys I didn't see play? I just have to go off of highlights and stats. I don't know. I'm not yet a true historian of the game in that way, as far as I'm not the right person to ask. But I'll just tell you this: Aaron Donald, he was one of the greatest I've ever seen. One of the greatest. Bad weekend so far at TPC Sawgrass. The Masters is a month away. The Masters is so crucial for guys like Justin Thomas, Jordan Spieth, Will Zalatoris, and they all missed the cut this weekend at TPC Sawgrass. Meanwhile, the Masters is obviously big for everyone, the live guys. But right now, you have guys like Scotty Scheffler playing really great golf, Hideki Matsuyama playing really great golf, Xander Schauffele, Wyndham Clark. So you want to be playing good golf heading into the Masters. And for JT, Jordan Spieth, Zalatoris to miss the cut, that's painful. That's really painful because TPC Sawgrass is one of those great tournaments where if you play well, you're a month out from the Masters. It feels like, okay, my game is where it needs to be to compete at the Masters. I can't wait. I'm so excited for the Masters. You guys know how much I love the 4 major tournaments in golf. And it's even more interesting now when you add in a Jon Rahm to live, who's not, how are the live guys really going to compete? I mean, Brooks broke through last year and showed you can play live golf and win a major. So we'll see. I mean, it's another year of, can the live guys truly win majors? Or is it just Brooks? Is Brooks just that anomaly because he's one of maybe the 10 greatest of all time to ever do it in the big tournaments? So bad weekend. I keep my eye out. I really want to see Colin Morikawa get back on top. I'm rooting for him to make a little run this weekend at TPC and just where's his game at going into the Masters? He made the cut. That's good. In the NBA, the Nuggets are hot. Look out. Look out. The Nuggets are hot. They just came out of the oven, kids. Wait Let them cool before you cover them and catch up and plop them in your mouth. They've won 9 of 10, 5 in a row. They're now first in the West. I truly think, as NBA fans, the best thing for us is Nuggets and Bucks. Giannis and Jokic. I think they're the two best players on the planet, and I just want to see them battle it out. You know, Giannis beat that Suns team a couple years ago with Chris Paul for a ring. You know, Jokic beat a Miami Heat team for a ring. Both good teams. But I want to see these two battle each other, go head to head. I really hope it happens. And I'm on the way. I hope it's Bucks Celtics, and I hope it's Nuggets Lakers again. I just love the idea of LeBron making it to another Western Conference Finals. I think that'd be fun. Finally, too, I do want to mention Philly has fallen. The 76ers are now the 8th seed in the East. If I was Joel Embiid, I would not come back this year. If I was Joel Embiid, I'd focus on being healthy so I could ball out at the Olympics on Team USA, and I could still try to convince guys to either come to Philadelphia or find the place that he wants to go to next, if I'm Joel Embiid. You've been listening on the Mark News Talk 1070 KHMO and the KHMO app, brought to you by Kunis Honda Hyundai. Thank you so much for making me a part of your Saturday morning. As always, follow me on X/Twitter at Mark Hespen, Instagram at Mark Hespen, MarkHespen. On YouTube, we post weekly updates on YouTube at Mark Hespen, MarkHespen. Follow the show on the Mark KHMO on Facebook. See you next week. We'll have a lot more NFL, I'm sure, to talk about, and March Madness underway.